Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Imagine running a business where the core engine powering your entire company, your customer service, your data analysis, your internal coding, is just suddenly outlawed overnight.
Yeah, that would be terrifying.
Right. Today, American companies are quietly migrating to Chinese artificial intelligence to save, literally millions of dollars. But they might actually be building their futures on a massive geopolitical fault line. Welcome to Connecting the Dots, the daily show where we break down the latest tech news and figure out exactly how it impacts your everyday life. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm Morgan. We're coming to you live from Snarful Solutions Group right here in Sacramento, California. And it is Tuesday, July 7, 2026. And we have a really packed show lined up for you today.
We really do. But before we get into the heavy-hitting tech news and that massive AI shift, let's get you caught up on the daily briefing so you are fully prepared for the day ahead. Starting off with the weather right here in Sacramento. It is a beautiful sunny Tuesday. We are looking at a high of 87 degrees Fahrenheit with a nice light wind of 5 to 12 miles per hour. Absolutely perfect summer conditions.
It really is gorgeous locally, though we should note, for everyone listening across the rest of the country, things are significantly more turbulent outside of California right now. As of this morning, there are currently 195 active U.S. weather alerts, with 84 of those situated over land. So depending on where you are tuning in from today, make sure you double-check your local forecast before heading out the door.
Good call. Always better to be prepared. Now, pivoting over to the markets. If you were watching the tickers yesterday, Monday brought some very solid green across the board. The Dow Jones jumped up over 227 points to close out at 53,055.91.
Yeah, and the S&P 500 mirrored that positive momentum as well, rising 30 points to finish the day at 7,537.43. On the crypto side of things, though, we are seeing a slight pullback this morning. As of today, Bitcoin dipped 1.5%, bringing it down to just over 63,000.
A little bit of a breather for the crypto markets, it seems. Finally, let's wrap up the morning briefing with a little bit of sports. A massive congratulations to the San Francisco Giants, who absolutely crushed the Toronto Blue Jays yesterday with a final score of 10-1.
There wasn't even a contest, honestly. Landon Roop was the winning pitcher, and he threw an absolute gem of a game. A thoroughly great night for baseball fans on the West Coast.
Yeah, seriously, they totally dominated. All right, with the morning updates out of the way, we're ready to get into today's Morning Star Tech Report, where the global landscape of artificial intelligence is just, fracturing in real time. But first, a quick word from our sponsor.
Today's episode is brought to you by Strong Coffee, the premium instant coffee that tastes like a traditional brew but is packed with 15 grams of protein, MCTs, and adaptogens like ashwagandha. Get clean, sustained energy without the jitters. Use promo code SNARFUL for 20% off at strongcoffeecompany.com.
Okay, let's unpack this. We really need to talk about what is quietly becoming the biggest and potentially the most disruptive shift in enterprise tech this year. We're witnessing what I'm calling the great AI migration. U.S. companies, meaning the businesses you interact with, buy from, and work for every single day, are actively abandoning American-built AI systems in droves.
Yeah, it's wild to watch.
It is. Instead, they're adopting Chinese-built AI models to run their daily operations.
The sheer scale of the shift is really what makes this so critical to understand. If we look at the data coming out of OpenRouter, which is essentially a massive marketplace platform that developers use to plug different AI models into their software, U.S. companies have directed over 30% of their token use to Chinese models every single week since February 8th of this year.
Wow, that is a huge chunk of the market.
Right, and at one specific point, it actually peaked at 46%.
Let me pause you there, because we throw the word token around a lot in tech, and I want to make sure everyone listening is on the exact same page. Think of a token as the raw currency of artificial intelligence. It's roughly equivalent to a word or maybe a syllable. Every single time you ask an AI a question or it generates an answer for you, you are spending tokens.
That is a great way to explain it.
Thanks. So when we say 30% of token use, we mean 30% of that word currency, the actual thinking and processing power, is now flowing directly into Chinese models.
Exactly. And to give you some historical context on that 30 to 46% figure, prior to this recent surge, Chinese models only accounted for about 11% of that token traffic over the previous 12 months. If you go back just a little further to early 2025, it was sitting at a mere 4.5%.
So we have gone from practically zero market share to almost half the pie in certain developer ecosystems in just a matter of months. Which naturally brings up the biggest question. Why? Why are American businesses who have access to domestic giants like OpenAI and Anthropic suddenly pivoting to foreign infrastructure for their core technology?
Honestly, it comes down to basic economics. I mean, the cost of running these advanced, leading-edge American AI systems has just skyrocketed. When you are a large enterprise trying to integrate AI into every single department, from automating customer service chats to analyzing massive financial data sets to generating thousands of lines of code, you are burning through billions of tokens.
Oh, absolutely. And those costs scale up incredibly fast, often hitting millions of dollars a year just in API fees alone.
Exactly. So it is entirely a budget play. Chinese models have recently hit the market, offering prices that are 60 to 90% cheaper than the top American systems. And the crucial piece of the puzzle here is how they are doing it. It isn't just about heavily subsidized compute or cheap labor, which is what a lot of people assume.
Right. There is actual technological innovation happening there.
Yes. Chinese AI labs have been forced to become incredibly efficient. They are utilizing highly optimized, smaller architectures, like a framework called Mixture of Experts. Without getting too deep into the weeds, instead of firing up the entire massive brain of the AI for every single question, this architecture only activates the specific small part of the brain needed to answer that exact prompt.
So it requires significantly less computing power, which drops the operating cost through the floor. It reminds me heavily of the pharmaceutical industry. Think about when a doctor writes you a prescription. You can go to the pharmacy and buy the shiny name brand medication for an absolute fortune, or you can buy the high-quality generic version.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right. If that generic pill is 90% as effective but costs a fraction of the price, budget-conscious businesses have no choice but to make the switch. They're simply acting rationally to protect their bottom line and keep their own products affordable for you, the consumer.
That generic drug analogy is spot on, and the industry analysts completely back this up. They estimate that these cheaper Chinese models are only trailing about 6 to 9 months behind the absolute frontier capabilities of the best American systems.
Which is really nothing in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. For 95% of business tasks, you really don't need the model that was invented yesterday. You just need the one from 6 months ago that costs pennies on the dollar.
And we are seeing this play out in real time with some staggering specific examples. Look at a Beijing-based AI startup called Z.AI. They recently released a model named GLM 5.2. When it hit the Vercel platform, which is a major hub developers use to build and deploy web applications, its daily token volume grew 27 times over in just its first week.
That is massive growth. Going from a handful of beta testers to multiplying your volume by 27 in 7 days tells you this isn't just a shiny toy developers are testing out for fun. Businesses are actively ripping out American infrastructure and replacing it.
Yeah, they really are.
And the reason is that GLM 5.2 is performing almost identically on key benchmarks to Anthropic's highly advanced Opus 4.8 model, but it is doing it for literally 1/5 of the price.
Then you have an AI startup like Lindy. They had built their operations using Anthropic's Claude model, but in June, they moved 100% of their traffic over to a Chinese model made by DeepSeek.
Yeah.
The CEO of Lindy literally came out and said their cost curve just crashed to the ground. They are saving millions of dollars simply by swapping out the underlying engine.
The margins are just way too good for tech leaders to ignore.
But wait, if I'm looking at this from Beijing's perspective, I'm absolutely thrilled, right? I mean, Western companies are willingly handing me massive market share, they're relying on my infrastructure, and they're paying me for it. Why would I want to stop that momentum?
Yeah, that is exactly where the narrative takes a sharp turn. Let's look closer at the reaction back in China. Because as these Chinese models become globally dominant and deeply embedded into foreign corporate infrastructure, Beijing is suddenly getting very nervous.
Really? Nervous about winning the market.
Yeah, they are realizing they might be giving away their most valuable strategic technological assets for pennies.
Oh, wow. So they capture the global market, and now they are considering locking the gates.
Precisely. China's Ministry of Commerce has actually spent the last month convening high-level meetings with major tech giants like Alibaba, ByteDance, and that startup we just mentioned, ZAI.
Okay, so all the big players.
All of them. And the central topic of conversation is how to restrict overseas access to their top-tier AI models. They are discussing potential regulatory curbs on both their closed source systems, which are accessed via APIs, and their open weight models.
I have to stop you there. because the logistics of this make absolutely zero sense to me. I understand cutting off API access, you just turn off the server. But how on earth do you put the genie back in the bottle when it comes to open weight models?
It's a great question, and it's complicated.
Right, because for our listeners, open weight basically means the core instructions, the actual brain of the AI, have already been packaged up and released for developers to download and run locally on their own physical computers. Once it's downloaded by a developer in Ohio, you can't just recall it. It's like trying to unsend a mass email.
You are entirely correct about the models that are already out in the wild. You cannot wipe a hard drive in Ohio from a desk in Beijing. But from a regulatory standpoint, they aren't trying to delete history, they're trying to control the future. The measures they are proposing are severe.
Like what kind of measures?
Well, they are considering classifying the unauthorized leak or overseas release of proprietary AI as a direct violation of their national security law.
Ah, I see. So if a Chinese developer knows that putting the next iteration of their model on the open internet could result in major national security charges, they simply won't do it.
Exactly. It creates a massive chilling effect on the entire industry. They are also talking about limiting who can invest in domestic AI startups specifically to keep foreign capital and foreign influence out of their ecosystem.
That makes sense from a protectionist standpoint.
Yeah, and there is also a proposal on the table to sort all AI development by sensitivity levels. Routine basic tools might just need standard registration, but the most powerful frontier systems would be legally mandated to remain entirely domestic. No public or international release whatsoever.
Okay, so Beijing is terrified of their top-tier AI leaking out and fueling foreign companies. But that paranoia didn't just appear out of nowhere. If you look at the timeline, they are essentially holding up a mirror to Washington. This isn't happening in a vacuum. It's a direct response to recent moves by the United States.
It really is a massive geopolitical AI tit for tat. And we should be very clear to you, our listener, we are strictly reporting on the policy moves and the stated anxieties of both the U.S. and Chinese governments here. We aren't taking a side or endorsing either nation's viewpoint.
Exactly. We are just laying out the mechanics of how this global standoff is escalating, because it directly impacts the software you use every day. So let's look at what the U.S. has been doing that triggered this whole reaction. Recently, the U.S. government stepped in and forced Anthropic to temporarily ban foreign access to its most advanced models, specifically the ones named Mythos and Fable.
Right, and they cited strict national security concerns for that move.
They did. Now, they did eventually ease some of those restrictions on the Mythos model, but only for select, highly vetted Fortune 500 companies. The broader message to the global market was sent loud and clear.
Yeah, and OpenAI has faced very similar pressure from the U.S. government behind the scenes, resulting in them holding back or delaying the release of certain advanced systems. The United States is very clearly treating high-level artificial intelligence not just as software, but as a strategic national asset that needs to be protected with export controls.
It's very much in the same way they treat military technology or advanced semiconductor manufacturing. And from the Chinese perspective, this U.S. posturing is highly alarming. Officials in Beijing, including Zhu Huhongyi, who is the founder of the major Chinese cybersecurity company 360, are pointing specifically at Anthropic's Mythos model.
Yeah, Mythos is a huge sticking point for them.
It is, because Mythos is incredibly capable when it comes to complex cybersecurity tasks. It can write secure code, but the fear in Beijing is the dual-use nature of that ability. They worry that a tool that smart could be weaponized by the U.S. to aggressively scan, identify, and exploit zero-day vulnerabilities in Chinese software systems.
It is the textbook definition of a security dilemma. The U.S. restricts its AI because it fears what foreign adversaries might do with it. China looks at those restrictions, views the American AI as a potential cyber weapon, and decides it must hoard its own AI advancements to build up comparable defensive and potentially offensive capabilities.
So neither side trusts the other, so both sides just lock down.
Exactly, and Beijing has already started retaliating in other very tangible ways beyond just proposing these new export limits.
Right. Didn't they block a major acquisition recently?
They did. Earlier this year, they essentially forced Meta to completely reverse a $2 billion deal to acquire a Chinese AI startup called Manus. That deal was practically done, and regulators stepped in and tore it up. They are also actively opening inquiries into Chinese AI firms that have relocated their headquarters overseas just to see if those companies are trying to dodge these upcoming export rules.
The walls are going up so rapidly on both sides. And this brings us to the broader implication for working professionals, for you, the listener. We have spent the last 2 decades getting used to a totally borderless digital world. You download a tool from a server in Europe, you write code in California, you deploy a business globally.
It's just how the internet works, or worked.
Exactly. Yeah. But as fundamental technology becomes inextricably linked to national security, governments are building incredibly high digital walls that fracture that ecosystem. Which brings us right back to the great AI migration we started with. American companies right now are building their products, their daily workflows, and their entire financial cost structures on top of these incredibly cheap, highly capable Chinese models.
Right. They are saving millions today, but they are building their houses on a geopolitical fault line that could crack at literally any moment.
It is an incredibly precarious position to be in as a business owner. The global tech ecosystem is fracturing into regional, heavily regulated silos. The startups and enterprise businesses caught in the middle are going to have to navigate some incredibly complex legal and geopolitical minefields just to keep their basic software engines running.
It really makes you rethink the hidden long-term costs of cheap technology. We're going to wrap things up in just a moment and leave you with one final thought on all of this. But before we do, we have a quick message.
Before we wrap up, a quick thanks to Old Glory, an iconic music and sports fan merch store. Perfect for the techie in your life. Yeah. Use promo code SNARFL for 15% off at oldglory.com.
So let's connect the dots on everything we've explored today. We started by looking at how sky-high, enterprise-level computing costs here in the U.S. have essentially forced budget-conscious businesses to adopt highly optimized, low-cost Chinese AI models just to stay financially competitive.
Then we saw how that exact global success, the massive adoption of their developer tokens by Western companies, has actually panicked Beijing. It is leading them to propose strict export limits and national security laws to protect their digital crown jewels from being utilized by foreign entities.
And finally, we saw how all of this is deeply tied to an escalating high-stakes cybersecurity standoff between two global superpowers. Both sides are throwing up regulations, reversing multi-billion-dollar acquisitions, and treating artificial intelligence like the new digital nuclear deterrent.
It is a rapidly shifting landscape. What is absolutely clear is that the era of completely open, borderless AI development is facing severe geopolitical headwinds that will change how software is built moving forward. Which leaves us with a pretty intense question for you to ponder today as you go about your work.
Yeah, if sudden geopolitical regulations cut off access to these cheap foreign models overnight, it's not just a matter of switching back to American AI.
Exactly. It begs the question, have we reached a point where American-made technology is becoming a luxury item that only the massive tech giants can afford, leaving everyday startups and small businesses totally reliant on foreign infrastructure just to survive?
I mean, if the generic medication suddenly disappears from the pharmacy shelves and the name brand is too expensive to buy, what happens to the patient? It's a reality every tech leader needs to be preparing for right now.
We're here to help at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.